Thailand, Irvine. Wow, so many amazing people. Mexico, Tampa, Chile. This is awesome. Cool. Okay, so then without further ado, let's get this started because we have a packed schedule for you today, and we want to make sure that we leave plenty of time at the end for your questions. We find that it's best to answer as many questions from you as possible versus us talking here for you guys. So yeah, Charles, if you want to maybe put yourself on mute and let's go to the next slide, that would be fantastic. Okay. Oh, I think the first one where we're going to talk about the agenda. Okay, perfect. So today's agenda, we're going to start with a poll to understand the makeup and see how you guys are distributed. Then we're going to go into a panel discussion with the experts, which I will introduce. Then we'll go into the Q&A, as I mentioned. So if you go to the next slide, maybe we'll do the poll first. Charles? Cool.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and launch this poll. It's something we like to do at the beginning of all of our webinars, just understand kind of the makeup of your organizations. So give me just a moment here and I will launch the poll. Okay, so you should start seeing it populate on your screen. So give it just a second. All right, cool. You should see it now. We'll give you about 30 seconds to put your answers in. All right, cool. We're up to 40% have voted.
I can't vote, I guess, because I'm an organizer.
Yeah, so we'll do about 10 more seconds here. We've got most of our votes in already. All right. Cool. All right, we've got almost 80% have put their votes in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll up, and I'm going to share the results. So you should see just a moment. All right, so you should see the results on your screen now. So is your organization borderless? No, and we do not have plans to become borderless. Scored about 26% of you, so about a fourth of you. No, but we want to become borderless in the future. So 10%, two countries currently, 8%, 23%, 3 to 5, and then 33%, 6 or more. So we've actually got a lot of global organizations here today, Lana.
Yeah, 55% is in 3 or more countries, which is pretty awesome. And of course, I love the other part as well, because we want to keep things balanced and make sure that we give you tips for both of those that don't have plans, but also for those that are borderless. Awesome, Charles. So then we can launch into the presentation. Perfect. So you can go to my slide first, and then I'll just introduce myself so that you guys know why me and why am I doing this. So my name is Lana. I am the head of revenue here at SafetyWing. I've been a remote worker since 2008 when it was not very popular. Here at SafetyWing, I built a fully remote team from 0 to 14 people and 0 to a few $1 million in revenue in just 12 months. So in that short amount of time, we're able to build a team globally in most time zones, in most continents, and we have 100% retention, and that's due to our amazing culture. So that's why I think I have some credentials being here and talking to you guys. I'm also founder myself, Y Combinator. I have worked in both Silicon Valley and New York, so I'm very able to compare, office as well as remote, and also some of the biggest kind of like centers of the world where some of the best talent is at. Now that we have opened up our borders to hiring talent all over the world, it brings a new set of challenges, and that's why we're here to discover those and talk about those challenges, and also give you guys some ideas on how to best address those. Great. So then, Charles, why SafetyWing? Well, SafetyWing solves this global benefits for remote workers and teams. And if you go to the next slide, what that really means is that we provide things like health insurance. Health insurance has been very hard to solve when your company is distributed. So let's say you have people working 3+ countries, you're hiring more in different countries. Instead of having to get a local health insurance in each country, you can get one plan, one price, one dashboard, and basically add and remove people wherever they are in the world or wherever they travel to. So the cool thing with remote work is that people can travel wherever they want to. And also with the Great Resignation, you'll see that many people are leaving because they want more flexibility. However, HR managers don't really know how to address this, because when it comes to insurance, they're used to it being local and tied to one country. Well, now with remote health from SafetyWing, they can be anywhere in the world and they can be moving around anywhere they want. So this is a huge perk that you can offer and help retain your talent. So not only are we going to have remote health here, but remote doctor, remote retirement, to kind of like a 401k for global remote workers, remote therapy, parental leave, as well as income protection. So that's all I'm going to say about SafetyWing, just so you can have an idea why us and why are we talking about this. Charles, do you want to go to the next slide so that we can introduce our panelists? I'm very happy for Johanna and Graham to join us. If you guys, perfect, turn on your cameras and then just tell us why you, why did we choose you here? Tell us a bit about your companies, yourselves. That way the audience has a better idea, and then we can go into questions.
After you, Johanna.
Such a gentleman. Thank you, Graham. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Johanna Molina, co-founder and head of impact at the Intent Group. Essentially, we believe that talent is everywhere, but opportunities aren't, and we are helping close that gap between talent and opportunities, helping build a borderless world for talent. A little bit about me. I've led remote teams for over 11 years across all continents. And over the last 11 years with the Intent Group, we have connected more than 10,000 students with internships in more than 120 different destinations and nationalities. Our companies, more than 3,000 host organizations that are located pretty much in every continent. And in the last year alone, 2,000 of these students have been fully remote. So yes, I think it's very interesting for me to be here, very happy to be here and answer any questions and contribute to the conversation anyway.
And I'm Graham. Thanks for allowing me to join you all today. I'm representing Nextstand, and Nextstand see themselves as the ergonomic answer to this new world of remote working. So we produce tools which enable the mobile worker to work safely. And the important thing is that we have a flagship product which has won awards for the fact that it actually does what it says on the tin, because there are a lot of products out there that don't necessarily allow you to raise your head and raise your game. And that's what our flagship K2 product does. Why am I here in particular is because I have spent 20 years or so as a workplace assessor and an assistive technology trainer at the coalface, seeing what happens when we don't make adjustments for people in the workplace to keep them healthy and keep their well-being in check, both in terms of health, physical health and mental health.
Sorry, I didn't know I was on mute. Great, that's fantastic, Graham and Johanna, thank you so much. I think this is fantastic because we can start by saying I reached out to Graham and his team to figure out how could I have a better workstation myself. So as a remote worker, I was working from a laptop, on my lap, on my bed, couch, wherever I was as I was traveling around the world. And now that I'm a bit more stable, I was like, okay, I need to buy a good chair. So I bought a Herman Miller chair, kind of like only the starting range. So I don't know if you guys can see, but this is one of them. And then got the next stand, which helped me get my laptop raised to eye level. That way I'm not injuring myself. My head is above my shoulders, and so is my torso with my hips. and I've noticed quite a bit of a difference with that. I bought like the wireless mouse as well as the keyboard from Apple just because I have a Mac. And that has been very helpful. But yeah, the next stand is quite a very cheap investment that helps me kind of like be aligned at my desk and know that I'm probably not going to injure myself in some way as I work, quite a bit. So that's why I wanted to start this conversation with like, what are you guys doing at your companies to help your people well-being of your employees? And actually, Charles is launching this poll that you guys can also vote from the audience so that we can see what are your companies doing to address some of these things. So maybe, Johanna, if you want to start.
So I'll go ahead and I'll launch this while you guys are starting to talk through it. But the first piece here, the first question is specifically going to be on how your organization is addressing mental health, and then the following question will be on physical health. So I just want to call that out before I launch them. All right, so I will launch that right now. So you should see that start populating. We'll give you about a minute to put in your results. You can select any of these that apply. So if you've done multiple of these things, you can pick more than one. All right, about 50% are in so far. All right, we're up to 65%. Give it about 5 more seconds here. Alrighty, I'm going to close the poll and share it. All right, so you should see the poll results here starting to populate, and then Lana, I'll let you kind of read off some of the results here, but it looks like definitely flexible scheduling, benefits, offerings, and mental health awareness in the office were primary there.
Yeah. It makes me really happy to see these 3 because these are some of the most important things. One being the benefits. So like insurance has come up over and over again, where it's the #1 thing that most workers want and appreciate versus even like a stipend. And then promoting like mental health awareness is fantastic because we're seeing more and more being written about mental health and how important it is. And then flexibility is it's so key. So not only do you offer remote work, but also being able to allow people to be flexible within their schedules. So it doesn't have to be like an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, but they can really truly be flexible so that they can work async and in a way that makes them the happiest. We've seen that work the best for our company, and I'm also curious to see, maybe to hear from Joanna and Graham in terms of what do you think about these results and what you recommend?
Yes, no, I totally align with the results. I will say that in our industry and in our company, what we do is aligned with stipends for people to actually physically talking about setting themselves up for success in their own homes. So we give stipends for them to get their own workspace. We also see it like it's more scalable as well for companies to do it in that regard. Mentally, and I will leave the physical a lot for you, Graham, you can dive deeper into that, but for the mental aspect of it, which is a massive challenge, we provide a lot of the safe environment for people to be able to talk about mental health. Also, they all have memberships to Talkspace, which is like the Uber, let's say, for therapists on your phone. I use it myself as well, and it's been very, very good, and it's actually seen from our employees as a really good perk. Self-awareness, self-development, self-management. So we have like master classes for our team members as well every 2 weeks, where they learn and upskill themselves. And it's not just about work, but it's also about soft skills, which are very needed right now. Things like kindness, empathy, compassion, opportunities for them to self-develop, participate in forums like the Culture Forum, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, like spaces for them to be able to speak. Working with purpose is also really important, and connecting them with the purpose of the company. And that's why we're seeing a lot of these great resignation, is because people don't necessarily feel that what they do aligns with the purpose of the company, and the other way around. And I mean, people are productive when they are happy and when they are healthy. In my team, 99% of people are millennials and centennials, so that probably is different to other organizations. But when you look at their priorities, things like flexibility is their #1 priority. International mobility is also a #1 priority, for #2 or 3 priorities in their scale. So we'll just essentially listen to what's important for them, what works for our age group, to provide them with that, essentially.
Such a great
very
point.
interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, I picked up on a couple of things that you said. I mean, I think the asynchronous working is fundamental, and it's certainly something that works really well within Nextstand. We're all on different time zones, and we use that as much as possible to the advantage of being able to offer great service to our clients as well. The fact that we are all working on those different time zones, and yet we can work together on projects. And I think coming together in terms of objectives, one of the things that when I first came in that we spent a lot of time on was really looking at our massive transformational purpose as a business. What is our purpose? Why are we here on the planet? And really working on that as a team together, and then working on the objectives and the tasks coming out of those objectives all the time together. And I think whether it's task planning or whether it's appraisal, we make sure that that's a real 360 process, that it's not, there's no hierarchy in it, there's no I in team, as it were, and that everybody is pulling together towards the same process. I think that's fundamental in terms of keeping people happy and on track. I'm looking at some great technologies, but maybe I'll tell you about that later on.
Well, actually, Grant, I'm really interested in terms of like what kind of tips you can give people in their home environments to really just give them some nuggets like right now, so that they can get excited about, okay, like what are some things that they're doing wrong probably, and then maybe some quick fixes that are not very expensive.
Well, most people it will be because they're looking down.
Yeah, right.
We spend our life looking down, whether it's laptops or whether it's tablet computers or whether it's our telephones. And let's not forget telephones, because telephones are a big problem. I'll just show you something very quickly here. I have one of these alongside the laptop stand that we use as well. And this is a phone stand. I use that all day long, because how many people sit and they look at their computer, then their phone buzzes and they're doing this all day long. So, in terms of productivity, just to be able to flick your eyes down and look at something that's come through there and then get back up to the screen, rather than actually, turn and put your head down, that helps a great deal. So, do you need a fancy chair half the time? No, you don't. You can use your core really well in terms of sitting up and be thinking about your posture. Actually be.
How do you think about your posture? Like how
do you think about your posture? Well, I think most of us know when we're not breathing correctly, and I think most of us know when we're getting tired. Okay. And what we've traditionally done is we've rushed for the cup of coffee, okay? And we go, oh, if I have a cup of coffee, I get the caffeine in the system, then suddenly I'll be more awake. But actually, that's the wrong thing to do. The one thing that will actually really perk us up is to get some more oxygen in our lungs. So if we're sitting in a position where we're actually breathing properly and being able to breathe from the diaphragm, then actually we probably know that we've got our posture right in terms of our back as well. So sitting up, using our core is the right thing to do. But we need to get our tools that we're using on a day-to-day basis in front of us at the right height, and that's why, you know, we've created a laptop stand that manages to do that. And it's a big problem, because the market just across Europe for laptop sales means there's going to be about 380 billion laptops in people's homes by the end of next year.
Wow.
Yeah, take that in for a minute. It's a huge market. The proportion of people that are buying anything to make an adjustment to using a laptop compared with the sales of laptops is very small. So you've only got about 1/10 of the market are actually buying any kind of adjustment, but they're buying laptops.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry, was it the number of laptops or dollar amounts? Because I'm finding it hard to believe that we have X billion people on the planet, but we're buying a lot more laptops per person.
Sorry, yeah, that's in dollar amounts.
In dollar amounts. Okay, perfect.
Sorry,
That makes
but
sense.
it's a huge amount of laptops, and actually, you know, even that is disproportionate between different people as well, because you know, that means that some houses have got 5 laptops and others haven't got any. So
Sure. No, for sure. I mean, for the remote worker and the hybrid and those working from home, you certainly are working from a laptop. I mean, I am. As head of revenue, I should probably have like a big, nice screen as well. But just because I'm moving around so much, I'm not able to, like, you know, bring that screen with me.
yeah.
However, I'm able to bring my neck stand with me. So that's pretty cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time, so I think let's launch into the other poll. Yeah, Charles. That way we can get the audience engaged again, and then we can talk about that. Perfect. So this poll is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is going to talk about the physical health, and Graham kind of just started that conversation here. So this is a good opportunity for that. So give me 1 second and it will start launching here. All right, give it just one more second. Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll give it about 20-30 seconds here. Right, we've got about 20% of the votes in already.
Right, I hope
so,
this is fun for you guys to be able to participate and kind of like chime in. And by the way, as we're going to launch into questions next, so in about 4 minutes, we'll go into questions. Please make sure that you also enter your questions so that Charles can read them off, and then we're able to kind of like answer them. If there's a lot of questions, we might do like rapid fire so we can get to all of them. But that would be fantastic.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share the results right now.
Wow.
Alrighty.
Great.
Yeah. So, yeah, Lana, I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, it looks like, again, you know, the middle 3 are the ones that are the most popular. So like evaluate your benefits offerings, which is a big one. I do get asked about this quite a bit in remote how, for example, and then subsidize gym memberships. This is nice. Okay, 35%. Subsidize the use of digital or ergonomic equipment. This is great too. So yeah, a lot of us do provide the stipends, and only about 47 are doing this. So there's room for improvement. Just know that many people are offering this. So to stay competitive, you might need to convince leadership to also offer this to your employees and contractors. This way, they don't feel left out and they don't have another reason to go somewhere else as the Great Resignations continues to peak. Great. Cool. What do you guys, Johanna and Graham, think about these things, and what are you doing at your company?
Well, obviously at NextStand, we make sure that everybody's set up properly. One of the things I would say about stipends, which is that I'm all for them, but I have to say they have to come with education as well. Because if they don't come with education, they're completely pointless. The reason I say that is because having spent 20 years as an assessor, what I saw year in, year out as I was doing that is if people don't know what sort of equipment they should be getting, or they don't know how to use that equipment, then it's wasted money. There's a lot of different equipment out there on the market. There's a lot of different things that you can buy as adjustments, but you really need to know what's right for you. And there are people obviously within every organization that have got nothing wrong with them. And so therefore it's a preventative solution. But then there will be people within your organization, if you want to be inclusive, that that will have particular issues already. So they will have health issues coming into the organization, and it's really important that for those people in particular that you have provision of the right thing. And it may not be just ergonomic equipment, it might be, you know, I'm also trained in specific learning difficulties, for example. If we're talking about supporting remote workers, are we supporting remote workers that have got dyslexia properly? Are we supporting remote workers who have got a hearing impairment, for example, or you know, have got dyscalculia? It's important that we're very inclusive in those policies and practices as well.
Interesting. And Graham, just a quick clarification. When you say proper training, does it mean that, let's say you ask a company to, like, let's say you buy something from Nextstand, does it come with some training to your team, or how does it work?
Well, we're always working on improving that. So and that's one of the things that we really focus on is user feedback in terms of the support process as well. So we're really kind of transfixed in terms of what we get back through the Trustpilot program that we use for feedback, but also within that we ask specific questions about, you know, did you know how to use this piece of equipment? Were you able to set it up correctly? Do you have the right advice as well from us in terms of how to use it to make your posture better, etc., etc. So we are always working on resources. We work quite closely with the ergonomic community as well, and have a lot of videos, for example, on our website from independent posture experts, ergonomists, etc., showing you how to use these.
Great. Joanna, did you want to add something?
Yes, absolutely. So from what you just said, a few things resonated with me. Absolutely, like posture kind of changes even the energy, how the energy is flowing in you. But one thing I'd like to pick from your comment is about the inclusion. And we are here because we are talking about remote work. And I personally see remote work, and this is probably to the 75% of the audience out there that really resonates with borderless. Either you are or you want to become borderless. That is just, we are living in a moment that is historic in terms of how you can give opportunities to everybody. We have interns in our program right now. I'm going to share with you one case, and it's a young man in Wisconsin who has severe palsy, and he moves the computer with his eyes. And I'm making a pause because when I actually learn about this case, I was like, this is absolutely fantastic. This person has 2 master's degrees. He's been able to work across continents, and it's all thanks to the good use of technology. So this is just absolutely fascinating when on one side we also hear about, yes, the great resignation. My question to all of you, because a lot of you are HR managers or in the HR department, is how are you connecting your people to the purpose of your organization? Because if you don't go back to that core, then you're going to have people leaving. But at the same time, you mentioned, Graham, earlier on, is this came as a sudden change. This is not a real remote work. This is remote work in a pandemic, with quarantines, with people living in fear, either for their own health or for their beloved ones' health. So, but the real remote work, once the pandemic is more controlled or out of the way, is just absolutely fantastic. And then we need to care for our people, and then we need to care for our managers, because all of a sudden they need to know more about project management. How do I manage a remote team? Because I never used to. So How do I manage them? How do I deliver through others? How do I have trust in teams? Because you are not seeing each other all the time, so we don't know what each person is doing. How am I managing myself? How am I encouraging kindness and compassion? How this is less transactional, because we don't want to have transactional relations anymore. We want to buy from you, but I want to love you before I buy from you.
Transformational, not transactional.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it starts with those leaders, and we've got to be fair to leaders as well, because leaders are just humans at the same time. And you know, where have some organizations let everybody down? It's with actually not training their leaders. It's actually with not upskilling their leaders into being the leaders that they need to be today to be in charge of the kind of companies that we need. So that's the big challenge for people, is retraining the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and that comes with a lot of heavy weight for people's mental health as well. Like if you are at home and if you have your kids and you don't know how to manage all of this, and you have a lot of pressure as well. Yes, it's just a very challenging times,
Yeah.
but exciting opportunities.
Very, very exciting opportunities. So I'm trying to take a pulse of the audience. How are you guys feeling? Do you have some questions for us that maybe we can start answering for you? This way we can make this as useful as possible for you. We have lots of other things to talk about, but we just want to make sure that we at least hear some of your questions. Charles, is there any questions yet, or should I go into some other interesting kind of like bullet points?
Yeah, we've got a couple that have come in. I really like this one, and I'll read it off here because I think it's relevant to some of the things we've already talked about. So, how do you recommend keeping team cohesion, alignment with company values, etc., with an asynchronous team? So, Graham, I know you were chatting about that a little bit earlier, but any recommendations that you have on team cohesion when you're working asynchronously?
Yeah, we use a lot of clever technology. And it's the best way of putting it. I think what's really important as well is we do use some very clever technology. We're a big advocate for Slack in our organization. I really like it, being neurodiverse myself, because I love the fact that I'd ban email tomorrow if I could, because email, trying to find where you are and what task you're meant to be on, etc. You know, in emails you just get lost, especially when you've got multiple email addresses. Slack works really well in terms of channeling everything into separate channels and keeping you on track there. But I think it's also important that even though we work asynchronous in an asynchronous way, that we do make sure that on a regular basis we do have time together, but not too much time. I mean, that was one of the problems, I think, when we first went into the pandemic. I saw from an assessment point of view, some companies where it was Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, and people were just getting burnt out because they just had no time to switch off from that. So it's about getting the right balance between touch points and then using clever technology to work asynchronous in an asynchronous way the rest of the time.
Yeah, I want to add, and Joanna, maybe you can do next, but I want to add that we do use Slack, Notion, and Teamflow. We do have twice a week that we are all synchronously working, which is 2 hours for Monday and 2 hours for Thursdays at the same time every day or every week. So that helps us be together, discuss goals, solve problems. However, the rest of the time, you're free to use as you wish to be as productive as you want to be, with the trust that you will be able to complete your work and not the doubt that comes from management or the founders, which has been working out really well for us. Joanna?
Yes, I agree with that. We also have spaces where we get together in our global all hands, we call it, and we have the opportunity to all be together, different time zones. It's going to be like 7 a.m. for me in this part of the world, for some people 7 p.m., but that's fine. One thing we did recently, going back to the values and cohesion, is that because a lot of our values are the same and will remain the same, but the way that we are acting, the business behaviors have changed a lot in the last 2 years. So recently we did a refresher of our business behaviors, which internally is how do we live those values? Like if one value is teamwork, how do I live that? Because it was very different before the pandemic, now that we are all fully remote. So we did that exercise with a combination of Google Forms, people kind of answering things offline and then coming online as well. And we also did a refresher for our purpose, because we have a lot of new joiners, people that weren't there when we first defined it. And that was a beautiful process I want to share with you, because it's all coming down to storytelling. Like stories is what creates companies and what connects them with that real feelings towards a brand. So we had in one of these all hands a space for people to share their stories. Like, what is the story that makes you more proudest to be part of the Intent Group? And I was fascinated as a co-founder to hear people resonating so much with that. And at the end, it was just like a boost of energy for absolutely everyone, because you could hear stories from people in the finance department, in departments that are necessarily like back end, but also really resonate with the purpose. So I just wanted to share that with you as well.
It's lovely.
Great. Maybe you can go to the next question, Charles.
Yeah, so I think that this conversation kind of dovetails well into a question that we got about meetings in general, because I think we all know meeting fatigue is a real thing, and that can have negative impact on not just your mental health but your physical health. What tips do you guys have for just reducing the number of meetings? Like, I know we talked about it a little bit, but who does that need to come from, right? Who needs to make that decision within an organization? Can you do it individually, or is it something that leadership needs to get buy-in on? So I expanded on the question there, but some advice on just lowering the number of meetings, if you would.
It's a great question, and if you guys want to go first, go for it. But I also have some tips that can help.
I'll go first then. Well, I think have a purpose to the meeting is, it's fundamental. It sounds really silly, but have a purpose to the meeting, because I think it's very, very easy in an organization to set meetings off the basis of tasks, as opposed to actually having a proper purpose for the meeting. I always loved the Richard Branson story about always taking people out for a walk meeting and saying, well, if you can't actually tell me without a PowerPoint, without the data, walking around the court in the 10 minutes that we're going to walk around the court, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and when we're going to do it, etc., then don't bother. Go and line your ducks up first before we have the meeting, and have a purpose for that meeting. So for me, I think that's one of the things, is actually you don't need a meeting to work out purpose. Between you've got your objectives, your tasks that you need to achieve in order to meet those objectives. Work out why you need to have meetings and what those meetings should be about, and actually really go back down to why do I need this communication? If I only want this communication because I need to get the information from the other people in this room. If I can get it in any other way, just get it in any other way.
Yeah, and Graham, how do you address the leadership part at your company? So is it something that it comes top down, saying like, hey guys, we're going to be more async. Here is how you book meetings. They have to be with a purpose, and they can only be 25 minutes long. So you can leave 5 minutes at the end for kind of like a relaxation to get back, to the next meeting.
Well, sounds really good. actually. I mean,
We do that, yeah. So like,
I think so I'm talking about Sam Eaton, that's the CEO. In as much as actually we have, although she tends to lead on meetings, we've actually worked out as well who's best at what within the team, and I think that's really important as well. That sometimes we apportion roles to people that they're not actually the best at doing, or they're not actually comfortable with. So now, you know, if there's a part of a meeting, or there's an agenda which actually suits me better, or it actually suits somebody else within the business better in terms of leading it, they will lead it, and we will be, in a way, we'll be subservient to that, because actually they're the best person to lead that partner. They're the best person to lead that meeting. So, and that
that's
tends
fine.
to steer it better as well.
Okay, Joanna, do you have a?
Yes, we also use Slack a lot. If it cannot be resolved on Slack, then before booking the meeting, like try to create a Slack group, give context. One pager really works, and people can actually comment there and ask questions beforehand. Nothing worse than arriving to meetings without any context. That way also people can avoid like rambling and wasting time. And another thing is booking personal time in the calendar. It's also quite simple, but in my case, I have people that have access to my Calendly link, and so this is super easy. You can book time with me, but then you are giving them control over like my calendar. So I have booked some times when people cannot do that, and I can make sure that at least I have time to have lunch, because sometimes at the beginning of the pandemic, probably that wasn't happening. That it was a luxury.
Yeah, those are great points, both from Graham and Johanna. And I just wanted to add that for your teams, as leaders that you are, make sure you ask your team. So what do they want to do more of or less of? I think this is a great way to start a conversation. And don't see it as like, oh, they're just gonna obviously ask for no meetings, but maybe there's a happy medium there. Maybe they need to be heard. Maybe they want a meeting sabbatical. Like some people from our company will take a meeting sabbatical for a week or two because they're so exhausted, and no one looks down upon them. No one is judging them. We're also experimenting with having the Thursday meetings be also optional. So instead of you having to do both Monday and Thursday, now you can have Thursday as optional. As I said before, we set up times for 25 minutes versus 30 minutes. That way you have like 5-minute break, and at least you can get up and stretch and do something. But again, like anything you can do to do more async work, write it in Notion, have the Google Docs like Joanna was saying, and Graham having a purpose, but really asking your people, asking your team and seeing, are they happy with the meeting volume, and what can management do to reduce that, to make their lives happier. I mean, it's very simple. It's just like do what people want. In any of these things, it's just a very simple answer. Like do what people want, and you'll be surprised. Many leaders think like, oh, if we do all these things, they might be too spoiled, or they might do this, or they might do that. But like, really, I mean, the UK is experimenting with a 4-day work week coming June. So I think quite a few companies signed up for that. So they're experimenting and seeing, like, do you have less productivity or more? Will you be happier going to work? So really very, very simple in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And also, sorry.
Go ahead, Ram.
I was just going to say, also have some fun in some meetings as well. I mean, really just have some fun. I mean, not every meeting has to be exactly the same in terms of format. There are some amazing tools out there now. I mean, even with today's webinar, we've done some polls. Do some polls in some meetings. Or, you know, there are some great gamification pieces of software like Mentimeter, or Vvox is another one that you use, where you can actually make it into a little bit of a game. You can actually, you know, have a set of questions. You can ask people those questions, and you can even have a leaderboard and you know, make it into two teams having a bit of a fight. But actually, you can still get the same objectives out of that, but make it a little bit of fun.
I echo that 100%. We have the happy hour team, and it's just allow your team members to be creative and to create things that they want to do, like trivia. If you are joining a meeting for trivia, obviously you don't have anything else very important to do, and it's just to connect and bond with people. And in terms of benefits, this is not, as you were saying, Lorna, this is not a one-size-fits-all. We were discussing at some point, I remember, also as the 4-day week, we were discussing potentially the open holidays policy, which is super trendy in Silicon Valley, and it comes like a perk. But actually, some studies also have shown that people tend to not take holidays when it's an open policy. So does that work for your company? I don't know. All these trends can be very good for some companies and not very good for others.
Yeah, we do the minimum 20 days a week. So it's minimum. You have to take 20 days a year, sorry, not a week. And that has worked out quite well for us. And I would suggest something like that for sure for leaders, because as leaders, you are showing that you care about people. But also, if you do have the 20-day minimum, make sure you take that as a leader. So Johanna, as you as the co-founder of this company, you set an example by saying, hey, I'm going off for a week and everything will be off. And that's what our co-founders do. They will take the week off. They will not be on Slack. They will not be on email. You can't reach them. So they're fully disconnected for a week. And that is sending a very powerful message to their teams that, hey, it's okay to take vacation and it's okay to disconnect, because we have grown up in this culture where you have to be constantly productive. You have to be working 12 hours a day, especially in Silicon Valley. And I did see many of those companies that have, oh, we have unlimited vacation. No one was taking them. Everyone is like falling off and, like getting burnt out. So no wonder. You have to also set some boundaries and rules around that. And it's the responsibility of the management as well as leadership to set a good example, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think it's hard. I think it's hard at the moment for leaders, and I think it's hard for managers, because ultimately what we're talking about here is flexibility. I mean, we haven't used that word yet, but remote work is part and parcel, if you like, of flexible working. And really what works for people is the ability to flex. And that's going to be different for every individual. The want of that is going to be different for every individual. And it could be wrapped up in a whole load of things. It's like saying, let's bring in a 4-day working week. Well, that might be great for some people, but for some other people with specific learning difficulties, for example, the whole idea of trying to cram everything into 4 days a week might actually fill them with dread, and might see half of your workforce disappear because they just won't be able to do it. So, if a company can do it, just offer as much flexibility as possible for every single worker. And that's the way you're going to keep your workforce happy.
Great point. And this is a workers market. So it's just like, what can you do to make people happy, to help them be fulfilled at their jobs and not leave? Because retaining someone is much less expensive than hiring another person. So always remember that. What can we do as a team? What can we find out from each other? What our needs are, so that we can offer, like Graham said, as much flexibility. Therefore, they can pick and choose their perfect benefits package, versus you telling them what to do. So that's great. Charles, is there another question? Because we're running out of time.
Yeah. So I really like where you took that, because there's one that leads right into, which is, how can we, or what can we do to convince leadership to prioritize benefits for a global workforce? So if you don't have benefits today for a global workforce, how can you convince the leadership team to do that? And I think that lends to the Great Resignation and things like that. Like, how can that help keep your people, keep your top talent at your organization? So we can jump into that.
Yeah, that's super, super important, because as HR managers, you're trying to figure out, how do I convince the people above me to make sure that people are taken care of? And a couple of things really fast is, one, show them all these articles if they haven't read them in Forbes and Inc. and New York Times, you name it. about the Great Resignation, to have a stay interview if you can for the people that are staying. And if you have a lot of people that are leaving, have an exit interview. And in the exit interview, see what is missing. Try to get to the bottom of what benefits didn't we offer, or what kind of culture didn't we build, or what kind of flexibility didn't we give that they are leaving. So really figure out and hone in into what exactly is happening that these people are leaving, and then take that data and show it to leadership and say, hey, here's what's happening. We've asked 10 people that have just left. This is what they were wanting more. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. What should we do?
I think the answer is look and see what your clients want. The thing is, if you want to convince somebody in business that they ought to be doing it, they're going to be worried about the bottom line. They're going to be worried about what it's going to cost to do all of this. But I think you need to look and see what are your clients doing, and what are your clients looking at in terms of what you're doing as well. It was quite interesting. I was talking to a sustainability expert, for example, earlier this week about she works with a lot of very large organizations in terms of sustainability, and she was saying to them, most of your clients, after they've looked at your product page, the next page they're going to be looking at is your sustainability page on your website. This is now, there's now statistics to show that, and this is the fact that companies are now, that buy from companies, are now looking to see what is the culture like within that business. So if you want a reason for doing it, the reason for doing it is because companies are going to be the companies that you deal with are going to be looking at your company culture, and if it doesn't align with theirs and what their people believe in as well, they're not going to buy from you. That's the best reason of all to be doing it, I think.
100%. And look at your competition, right? So like if your competition is offering better benefits than you are, that your talent will be going over there. So let's say Apple, to prevent their talent going to Meta, which ex-Facebook, they offered like $180,000 kind of like a bonus to their engineers. And they just had to do that, so they didn't jump ship and go over to Meta. So, see, are you competitive in the market? What are other people doing? Like Graham said, what are your clients? What are your competitors? Yeah, Joanna, I don't know if you have something.
Yes, I think that if you need to convince them, that is your problem. The fact that you need to convince them. But in terms of persuasion, I mean, ROI, how much is rotation costing you? How much is damaging your brand? Who is actually going to win this competition for emerging talent? We actually recently released a white paper on this. And what we found is that companies that train people, both the emerging talent and the managers, and companies that hire globally are the ones that are going to win this competition for emerging talent. Because we see a world where soon every company, no matter their size, big or small, are going to be able to hire the very best talent that they can find. And so you can only attract and find that talent when you also have benefits and all the infrastructure internally to keep them, because otherwise it's going to be super expensive keeping like hiring and hiring and hiring and people leaving and leaving and leaving.
I heard I listened to a webinar that one of your directors did, Lana, on remote working, and he was quoting some figures from Spotify. That they were polled, and the workforce there said, look, after this pandemic, 30% of them were saying if we don't have the option to continue to remote work, we're going.
Yeah, so, for sure.
So the people have spoken, and it's the people will leave if those benefits aren't there. So it's as simple as that, really.
Yeah, perfect ending. I know we do have 2 more minutes. Should we answer one more question, Charles? Or
yeah, I've got a fun just rapid fire one. Couple word answers here from everybody would be great. But okay, so and then we can jump into that, the last couple of slides here. So as it relates to your personal health, if you could give one recommendation on one action I could personally take today to make my 12-hour days more productive, what would it be? Maybe just give one example.
Yeah, I have sleep well, so 8 hours at least to 9 hours for myself. Eat well, so eating healthy, because you're working from home, definitely try to cook at home, and then breaks during the day. So, 5-minute breaks if you can. Graham?
Opportunities to learn within the business, stretch yourself mentally. Get some financial advice, because we all need that. We all need to make sure that we keep our money in check, and enjoy regular social interaction with others.
And I will add, take time to do some gratitude exercises. That is it keeps you full of energy. Time with family, keeping high energy, music, whatever that keeps you high energy. Take time to speak with a friend or two, if you can, over the week. I know it's a lot of calls during the day, but those are the things that actually energize me the most to keep going.
Perfect. We are at time, guys. Thank you so much, the panel, but also the attendees and your questions. You guys are awesome. You will get a video of this recording, so not to worry. If you have any questions, reach out to us, but we'll also send you a follow-up email with anything you need. So all the best. This is the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.